Hello, everyone, and welcome to the AFAM House, an exclusive podcast brought to you by the Afro-American Cultural Center at Yale. My name is Abby Haile.
My name is Naomi Obasa.
And happy Women's History Month. We're really excited to be highlighting a lot of the Black women here on campus and throughout the New Haven community that really help to tie not only the AFAM House, but also the broader Black Yale community and New Haven community here and really contribute to the light and love that is this community. Today, we're going to be talking about feminism and specifically hood feminism and what that means on this campus and beyond, inviting two guests here to speak with us.
Hello, my name is Sydney Feeney, and I'm the assistant director of the AFAM House, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hello, my name is Alana Edmondson. I'm a sixth-year PhD candidate in the English department here at Yale. And also I teach a course called Hood Feminism.
Which I am taking. Today I just want to learn more about your experiences with feminism and your experiences with teaching the class Hood Feminism. So I think we should just get right on into it. My first question is, what made you first realize that mainstream feminism wasn't representative of you and your experiences as a Black woman?
I'm from Seattle, so I come from a community that is, I shouldn't say naturally, because, white people shouldn't be there naturally anyway, but that is very, very white. And when I started doing abortion advocacy, I started being relied on quite heavily because there weren't a lot of other voices for the Black community when it came to abortion. And even in my own family, nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody would acknowledge it. And so once I joined this organization called Shout Your Abortion, now my family, they don't whisper the word anymore. And I saw that my own empowerment empowered the other women in my family. And kind of realized that, I guess that the advocacy that was being done wasn't actually it wasn't trickling down to Black women. And so I felt like I needed to take a role to make sure that, it wasn't even trickling down, but that it was being evenly dispersed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. AD Sydney? Your response?
No, I think that was well said. I think about 2022, I think is when Roe versus Wade was repealed. Mm-hmm. And I was running a summer program in Boston for students all over the country who were, I think y'all call it pre-frosh here. Mm-hmm. That was their version of pre-frosh. And it was a summer acclimation program. And it was a STEM school. And so a lot of the students, they, one, either didn't know about it. Two, were coming from states where it was deeply impacting them, like Texas, Ohio, kind of states like that. And three, because it was a STEM institution, they were worried that in their humanities classes that they wouldn't be able to talk about said issues. And so we had this conversation around one, being in Massachusetts, a lot more liberal state, I think a state that is leading kind of the way, not pioneering, but leading the way in education and being able to talk about these issues openly, and more importantly, the intersectionality of said issues about who it will disproportionately impact, being Black women, and they wanted to talk about these issues. And so I think very well said. Abortion, access to safe abortions, and who it might disproportionately impact is not being evenly dispersed throughout our communities. And so it's an important conversation to have in a context of Black feminism and feminism in general.
Absolutely.
Certainly. And I think also something else we wanted to discuss was also kind of what your beginnings, both of you guys, in terms of exploring Black feminism in the context of university campuses, but also just in daily life.
For me, I would say that my cohort was there were 15 of us that were admitted, and 5 of us were Black women. And that's part of why I chose Yale, was because of how the Black students in my department interacted with each other, how they supported each other, how they gave advice on how to deal with a racist professor, but also how they would send each other articles. They were, it wasn't a competitive, environment. Everybody was, we're all plants, and it seems like the Black women were the ones who were really doing the watering, And so I was like, oh, I want to be watered by you too. And also I want to water the next generation, the cohorts after me, which maybe I'm not doing as strong a part of. I don't. But I think when I first taught hood feminism was in spring 2024, and it was a syllabus that I designed based on Mickey Kendall's book. But I wanted, I specifically wanted Black girls to sign up for my class. I wanted it to create an environment for us to discuss issues that affect us, and to be in communion with each other. And so, that was like, I can create that. So I did.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I took the class. I was like, I'm definitely gonna meet like a lot of people that are like actually passionate about the same issues as me and look like me. So I was like, I have to get into this class. And I did. And I feel like, I don't know if you know, but like me and some of the other girls in the class, like the other Naomi, were like really close outside of the classroom.
I love
think
that.
that like that class has given us like even more things to talk about.
I love that. Perfect. Mission accomplished.
But I know you're talking about like the classhood feminism, but like how did you like advocate to have this class be taught at Yale, and what was that process like for you?
I didn't have to try that hard, actually. I don't know. I thought the syllabus was like really interesting and fun, and we have to like do like an application process to get the class approved, and they were like, no questions asked. They were just like, yeah, this is good, do it. And I always have a wait list for this class. And I think it's so special, also because it's like one of the few times that I think a lot of us will have this many, at Yale, this many Black people in one room, and to get to think together.
Yeah.
So
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
I'm off script for like 2 seconds. But this class is just for undergrads, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm interested to know. So I've taken Black feminism at the undergraduate level, the grad level, and maybe one day at the PhD level. Who knows? What do you feel like, if any, are the differences between the class, like, or Black feminism being studied? Like, does the depth change? Like, what is the evolution from like undergrad to grad to like doctoral students?
That's hard for me to answer, I would say. I am an early modernist, so I study British literature from like 1500 to 1800. So I didn't take a lot of Black studies classes. I took a lot of Latin, a lot of Greek, a lot of Renaissance classes. So but what I write about is, representations of, or I guess how Shakespeare especially, how Shakespeare in performance, how they go into race building, into the moment. The 1600s in England are really interesting to me, specifically because of they're kind of creating race at that time, because they're trying to rationalize slavery and the slave trade, and performance plays a really, really big role in that, because people can't read yet. Most people can't read yet, so it's like people go to see a play, and now there's Othello, and so basically like how poetry and performance goes into creating race. So, but when I was doing my oral exams, or we have to make like a bunch of lists, lots of stuff to read, right? And so that's when I finally was doing a lot of Black studies reading, because I couldn't articulate myself without knowing what other Black scholars, I mean, they said they've thought everything before I have. I can't know about race building without knowing what Black people have to say about it as well. Did I answer the question?
Yes, that's literally super important. When I was a master's student, I was a TA for like an intro WGS class, but the framework of it was like sorority women. And so the professor at the time, when we co-wrote together on a publication, and I challenged her, I was just like, we can't have a conversation about sorority women without acknowledging the inherent racism and like the implicit bias that comes from historically white sororities. And so I had asked like the evolution, because at the undergraduate level, like they were just discovering like Black feminism can exist within the gaze of feminism on this like umbrella like type of level. Like I don't think it really like, there was some dissonance happening about like why we were centering race in a conversation about Greek life and about sorority women. And so to see the lines and the, you know, the things come into like full fruition for them by the end of the semester and be able to make those connections, I think is so important when we talk about like the evolution of like feminism and how Black feminism is often left out of those conversations in terms of like history. Like race was like still being constructed, right? And in 18 something, when a lot of white sororities were founded, they didn't think, never crossed their mind. Like, so.
Also, sorority women is so interesting. I mean, thinking about like AKAs, et cetera, Black sororities, and thinking about, you know, the history of colorism, the ways that they kind of emulate the white sororities and negative ways. But also how people with like Kamala Harris, how people tried to kind of use her being a part of her being an AKA against her, which, I mean, comes from their kind of history with colorism and discrimination. You know, the pearls, the clutching.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that obviously is important to the AFM House is bringing it back to just the Black community. And I guess for us, how and in what ways have you made strides to center specifically Black women in regards to feminism and highlighting them, and also the differences in between feminist culture between the experiences of white women and Black women?
I mean, I guess in the classes that I teach or construct, I've designed 3 courses. One was main character syndrome, and then Black Shakespeare, and then Hood feminism. And this will be my last class at Yale probably. But I would say that's, you know, I try to create environments where we can have conversations. And also I learned so much from my students. Like we're all learning together. And even like in the past 2 years since I've last taught this class, the world has changed so much. You know, like it's a lot of the same readings, but they apply to a completely different world, and they apply to you guys differently now too. So yeah, I guess just trying to create spaces where I can learn from my students, and hopefully they can learn from each other and a little bit from me.
Tis the life of an educator.
Yeah, right.
You teach, but you learn so much more.
Yeah, honestly. I always forget. It's exhausting.
That brings me to the question, how has teaching Hood feminism changed how you approach feminism in general, and even changed you personally?
Oh, I think it's made me maybe a little bit more angry, which I didn't know was possible. But, you know, just being able to, I would say as Black women, we are already like, you know, acutely aware of the ways that we're being left behind, the ways that society systemically, you know, kind of gives us the middle finger. But I don't think I had like the language to discuss it. And I mean, well, maybe right now I don't either. But to really like to kind of more finely comb through the ways that we are being, not only the ways that we're being marginalized, but also the ways that we specifically step up for each other, and ease that gap for each other in our, you know, from like the, it takes a village kind of philosophy, to, Black women getting into law and, I mean, making changes.
Black women getting PhDs.
There's
There's a whole community to making sure that there are, conversations, spaces, like let's get each other there.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, especially for me, I mean, my family, when I first said I was going to study Shakespeare and like Elizabethan sexuality, they were like, okay. And my aunts took me aside and they were like, so how are you going to bring this back to us? How's this going to serve our culture and our community? I was like, well, shoot, I don't know. And then I, took that to my professors and was like, how do I study Shakespeare and make it Black? And they introduced me to Ira Aldridge, the first Black actor to perform as Othello on the European stage. And now I'm writing my dissertation about him, and then I'm writing a public-facing biography of him after that. So, I mean, but I needed that. I needed that. My aunts are the ones who are like, hey, but don't forget about us, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I mean, we need people to do that. And it's always going to be a Black woman, I'll tell you that.
Now shifting the conversation and lens to more so your abortion advocacy work. How has your previous experience working within and researching Black feminism, how has that shaped your work within abortion advocacy?
Well, I would say I've had 2 abortions. One when I was 21, one when I was 28. When I was 28, I was making very good money. I was in love with this man. My family all lived nearby. It could have been done. But I was in the middle of finishing up undergrad. I wanted to go. I was dead set on getting my PhD at an Ivy League school. Lord help me, I don't know why. But yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to put this baby on layaway. I'm going to get this PhD, and this baby will derail me. And I will not allow it. Despite the fact that my family, everyone was like, well, help, you've got a village. I was like, I don't want to hear about the village. I don't want to hear any of like this, like, my mama did it so I can do it too, like, philosophy. Like, my mama did it so I don't have to. And I feel like I wish there were more voices, even like within my own family and also in my community. I wish that more Black women were saying to me, like, you don't have to. Everyone was like, you can. And I was like, I know I can, but like, should I? Let's talk about that. Do I have to choose a struggle because everyone else has to? I don't have to. Mm-hmm. Why aren't I hearing more voices telling me that I don't have to? Yeah. Not that I can struggle. It's like, yeah, well, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, I definitely.
We're accustomed to struggle.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's like, but why would I choose it?
I guess I have a side question also to go a little bit off the beat, but I think it's very relevant to Black women studying at Ivy League institutions and probably are very ambitious and have a lot of goals. But, they have also maybe dreams of starting a family or they don't, and managing the pressures of, one day having a child or one day not having a child, but also managing their own aspirations of maybe wanting to become a businesswoman or a doctor, whoever. Mm-hmm. How, what advice would you have in terms of women trying to, manage that? If any.
Great question. I don't know. I thought part of why I wanted to go to a top program was because of, the way that the university helps with childcare and great insurance, and I'd have time to, well, I thought I'd have time to, be home while my, husband or whatever worked. Mm-hmm. I am not married. I am wrapping up this PhD this year, and I do not have a child. So I'm not, once I find out, I have no idea. I I don't know. I feel like I've gotten more protective over myself. Before, I think when I started this program, I had a long-term boyfriend, and a great member of my community. Like, my family loved him. My mom offered to buy us a house. Like, we were like, all right, we'll get pregnant, like, right after I do my oral exams. And, like, well, everything's perfect. And I would say that during this PhD, I've gotten more protective of my peace, of my time, of my heart. So I guess my advice would be to, like, not guard yourself. I mean, I still think I'm, like, very much like an open flower. My petals are wide open. But I mean, there's some thorns on the branches, and I'm not interested in shaving those off. I think it's completely possible to be open and loving, and also to be protective of yourself and of people you love. And so I guess it took me some time to figure out how to, I guess, juggle both of those things, wanting to be a lover girl, being a scholar, and also, protecting my peace, which is, like, ridiculous because there is no peace in a PhD. The peace for punishment. I'm just kidding. No, it's been a beautiful journey. Everyone should get one.
Yeah, so that brings me to the question. How is your, like, not even just, like, your Black feminist lens, but, like, just, like, your personal experiences approach how you have approached abortion advocacy, especially in the times where, like, Roe v. Wade is getting overturned and with our current presidency?
Wait, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, like, how has your life experiences and, like, just your Black feminist lens in general shape how you approach abortion advocacy?
The way that I've always addressed abortion advocacy, human rights advocacy, has been that if it scares me, I should do it. The first thing I did was Shout Your Abortion was doing a series of YouTube videos where they interviewed people in our community, and we told our abortion stories. Shout Your Abortion started as a hashtag where people on Twitter were sharing their abortion stories. And so that was my first scary step was, all right, I'm going to tell the world about my abortion. And then from there, I did a national marketing campaign with Planned Parenthood. I've done a lot of public speaking. We published a book. My story's in there too. I've told my story a lot of times to a lot of people, in front of a lot of microphones, like right here. And I would say that I think it's important that Black girls who happen to be pregnant, who can get pregnant, that they can find somebody that looks like them who will talk to them about it, because it might not be their aunts and it might not be their sisters. My first pregnancy, my sister offered to raise the baby. She was like, have it, I'll take care of it. I was like, you are insane. We're sending this back to Jesus. And like, that's not the voice that I wanted to hear. I mean, it was nice that I had an option, and it was a generous offer, I suppose. Mm-hmm. Put your body through hell and maybe die, and I'll make sure that the baby lives good. And it's like, no, that sounds still like hell, actually. So, no. But I think it's important that Black girls, have somebody say, like, hey, you don't have to choose a struggle if this feels like it's going to be one. Like, you can wait. Mm-hmm. You have a choice. And so I feel I have a duty, I have a responsibility to be that voice for those who might not have them readily available. Mm. Even if it's scary and everyone knows all my business.
But I mean, speaking on that too, what has the true experience been like I've seen that you've, protested on Capitol Hill, and that, like, being so publicly vulnerable, what effects or consequences, if any, have that had on yourself?
Well, I made the mistake of reading some comments on Fox News about me. And they said that I was ugly and nobody wanted to sleep with me anyway. And I was like, okay, I didn't get myself pregnant, Karen. But I think, the morning that we took abortion pills at the Supreme Court, it was December. We had to walk over there at 6 a.m. We did 2 days of training. We had Capitol Hill police liaisons. We had attorneys present. We went through the way that the anti-abortion activists, I'll call them that because they're not pro-life, but they try to get you arrested. So we had to learn specifically how to prepare for what they would try to do. I don't want to get arrested. I've been avoiding that my whole life. In the morning, you can see it in some of the pictures, after I take the pills, I stick my tongue out. And I hate those pictures so much because I remember trying to brush my tongue that day and I was just throwing up. It's just it's like a little cat. My body was just no. I was so scared. And I was like, I'm going to get arrested. If they're going to shoot somebody, I'm the only black person here. Why not me? I feel like I'll be targeted because I'm the only black person here. It still did it. And I didn't get arrested. But I think a lot of the time when we had our book release party in Seattle, the venue was getting a bunch of bomb threats. It's been scary. And people are really mean. But also I think it's important, there's going to be some black girl somewhere who chooses herself because, hopefully. But our book is in over 200 abortion providing clinics across the country. So at least, my story's in there. You can see, and there's lots of other black women in the book too. But at least hey, that person looks like me and they chose themselves. I can choose myself.
Title of the book?
It's called Shout Your Abortion. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of your experiences sound extremely scary. And I know that for anybody that would want to get involved with abortion advocacy, that can be very scary. So how did you overcome that fear when it came to getting involved with this advocacy?
If it made me feel scared, it meant I was supposed to do it. Which is, I guess, also how I've approached this PhD. And, most parts of life, except for men. If you make me feel scared, I'm definitely not supposed to do you. But when if it makes me scared, if I feel frightened by the idea of doing something, I should probably do it.
Which is I think the opposite too of the political climate. You think about anti-DEI legislation, the overturning of Roe versus Wade. People still have this irrational fear that, especially white people, that somehow black people being in positions of power or getting equity really somehow threatens their existence and threatens their privilege. And so it's the opposite. I think black people have no choice but to be fearless in terms of progression, in terms of development, in terms of upward mobility. You have other people, the other side, using fear as a tactic. So you can't get these things. We don't want you. They've made it clear. We don't want the gender pay gap to go away. We don't want you to have equitable access to education, to housing, to whatever it might
free lunch even.
Right. We don't want that. So let us fear monger amongst our own community. So you don't get the things that you need. So I think how we've seen fear be used from two different sides have been very interesting too, and I think should be talked about more.
I agree. I also feel like, it's like, I feel like to be fearless is like very Black feminist.
Yeah.
You know?
Epitome of it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
You have to be a little bit. I mean, obviously, I was still throwing up the morning of the Supreme Court action, but I still went. I was not fearless, but I walked with my head high after gagging for a long time.
Yeah. You can go.
Yeah.
The last question is, what piece of literature besides Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall has been key to shaping your Black feminist thought and how you approach feminism in general?
Oh, man. Well, the first people that came to mind were Saidiya Hartman and Christina Sharp. I took a class with Daphne Brooks here, and it was about, I forgot what the title was, but it was about Blackness in the archive. And I don't even know everything we read in that class. I still saved the syllabus. But yeah, I guess Christina Sharp, Saidiya Hartman, some of the stuff that Daphne Brooks has written, but I feel like she's too easy of an answer. I really, we're reading this in class when we get back. The article about Beyonce appropriating the aesthetic of Black radicalism.
I remember you talking about this
I'm
before.
so excited about it. It's by Miko Fitzward. Yeah, it's like Beyonce and the new niggerati. Niggerati being a term that was coined by, or maybe possibly coined by Zora Neale Hurston for the Black intelligentsia. Yeah. It's little stuff like that, or things I wouldn't have thought about. Like, it takes a Black woman to think of something like that, you know? And it's like, and also I don't want to hear it from anybody else. If we're going to be like, examining how a Black billionaire who's also a woman, and like extremely capitalistic, but who we love and like, also want to uplift, if we want to examine like, I guess kind of the tension there, I would like it to be with Black women.
Yeah. I actually do have one more question. So like, as a person who is teaching the next generation of Black feminists, how do you imagine that Black feminism will continue to evolve and like, yeah?
Well, in my classes, I should say, I try to lead with intellectual vulnerability. I'm very honest with you guys, maybe too honest. But I'm honest and open so that, and if I don't know something, I'll say I'm not sure. Like I said the other day, I was like, ooh, I'm actually like, I'm not a Black studies person. I'm just a Black person who studies. Like I don't, I haven't read all of this stuff. So wait, I already got distracted. Oh, I try to model, vulnerability so that you all will do the same with yourselves and with each other. And I think that's how you create fearless women. Women who are, comfortable, safe, with their choices, with their voices. And so, yeah, that's what I hope that happens in my class, or well, as a result of my classes. I do tell you guys like way too much stuff though.
Well, I mean, I think Audre Lorde wrote an episode on like it's the end of the week right before break.
I know, right?
she wrote an article about the erotics of like teaching, and how her experiences like teaching were so fulfilling because it was like a space where she could learn from her students could learn from her, and she could explore like the depths of like knowledge in whatever facet, and like for her that was like this type of like erotic like experience. And I was just like, that kind of blew my mind. And I read that, I think, as a grad student. But I think even to, like you mentioned, about like you said that you keep some syllabuses in terms of like the literature that's being used, and it's like that's like so important to like the literature that professors are putting on syllabuses to decolonize the ways in which we come to academia, we come to knowledge, who is the author of, who gets to create, and who is often left out of those conversations. And so my undergrad professor, when I took Black feminism, I think she was actually the only Black professor that I had at UConn. Her name was Dr. Simeon, and I still have her syllabus to that day because it was like my introduction to like Black feminism. And then when I got to grad, like I began to become a little bit more engrossed. And in terms of like women's history, like she introduced me to like Ida B. Wells and like Daisy Bates and like the people from like the civil rights movement, Black feminists there, like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King wife, why am I saying, I know her name, Coretta Scott, and how like embodiment of like Black feminism, but like people would never think to, you know, kind of bring those two parallels together about how they embody Black feminism. And so I think in terms of like the evolution, like we literally are standing on the shoulders of like the Black women that came before us. And so for me, I hope that Black feminism will continue to transcend time, and people like more Black women should get PhDs, and they should continue to aspire to like new heights and sit in those chairs that people don't want to see us in, because it's empowering and it helps to continue to have traction for the movement and continues to keep pushing and propelling forward.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes, I mean, for like my Black Shakespeare class, there's only one white person on the syllabus. Everybody was Black. To even be able to celebrate other Black scholars that way, to be able to like say, this is what, hey, we're only reading us, actually. And the one white person who's in there slipped in. It looked like a Black name.
Yeah. In our hood feminism class, I was actually quite surprised to see that there was like so much diversity within our classroom. Like, I mean, yeah, most of us are Black women, but still, like, I was surprised. Like, I think we have one white boy and one white girl.
Yeah.
We have 2 Hispanic boys and then like 2 Asian girls, and there's like 14 of us in the class. So like half of the class is non-Black, and I was like, that's so interesting that they like people are really taking the initiative from outside of our community to also engage with feminist Black feminist thought in particular.
No, for sure.
And I was like, wow, I was surprised.
Yeah.
I read the Combahee River Collective.
Yes. I was supposed to assign it. Well, I was going to. I didn't.
I was about to say, if y'all haven't read that in class.
And one of my other classes, we like kind of talked about it.
But like that's literally like the tenets of like the River Collective. They're saying that because Black women are essentially like at the totem pole, like to liberate Black women is to liberate literally everybody. And so it makes sense that like their class is diverse, kind of, because like Black feminism calls for the liberation of like literally everybody, specifically Black women. So,
yeah. It starts if it's I guess it's very much like a black feminist like tenet, like, we're only as strong as like the most marginalized amongst us. And so until Black women are liberated, then nobody is really liberated. But I mean, I think we're doing all right. We're doing all right.
Yeah. AD Sydney, I actually have a question for you. Like, as the assistant director for the house, and like Dean Bethel is also the director of the house, with the house being led by like Black women, how do you feel like that's shaping like Black feminist culture at Yale, if it is in any way?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm not sure of the direct impacts, I guess. I feel like I don't ever know of my direct impact until students graduate and we somehow cross paths again. And it's always nice to hear how I might have been able to be of assistance in some way, shape, or form during their undergraduate experience, which is a very formative time. But I mean, I think it's also indicative of like where we are in higher education, and Black women being amongst some of the most educated people walking the earth, and we represent that every day, or at least try to. And so, yeah, direct impacts. I don't know. I've only been here for about a year now, a year and some change. So maybe ask me that in a few years. But I'm sure the representation is good for people to see, not just Black women, but also Black men. Also for non-Black people, like it's also good for them to see us in these positions, and know that we come from an embodied experience when we advocate for students. And we don't just do it because like we want to challenge authority, but like because we see the real impacts of like the struggles that you have every day. And so like I think that helps to inform like the work that we do.
Yeah, should I close it off?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Welcome to the AFAM House podcast. That's it for today's episode, for us celebrating and honoring Women's History Month. So thank you for listening.
And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast from, whether it be from YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And we'll see you guys next episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.